Hey guys, it's Jonathan Sumner here. I wanted to make a video about freelancing. So you want to be a freelancer? Basically, I've gotten this question quite a bit. How to do it? How to get started? Can I do it? Things like that. And uh, it's kind of a complicated explanation. And I was actually looking at other videos, and I feel like they've left a lot of things out for you. They don't give you the full picture, so I figure I could give my input and it might help some people out. So the first thing you want to do is decide what you want to do, and that's pretty simple. For me, I started out as a web developer. Basically, I didn't start out as a freelancer. I actually started out as a meat stalker at a grocery store. Um, I was teaching myself HTML and CSS. I was going to school for graphic design, and one day I hit a wall, and I was like, I'm a web developer. What the heck am I doing here? And I left. Probably not the smartest option, but immediately I had a panic moment and stopped at the closest web development business in town, and I begged them for a job. I was like, I will clean your toilets, just whatever you have, because I don't want to do what I'm doing now, but I have to do something. Bills have to be paid. Luckily, they actually needed a junior developer. And I'll be honest with you, it was a crappy job. It was like just above minimum wage. I honestly didn't have the practice that everybody there had, but I had a lot more knowledge on the newer stuff. They were still doing things they did in the 90s, which is, you're in the web development industry, that's just not, things change every day. So that's where I got my start. It gave me the confidence after 8 months of that job, the internship, along with the paid work I did for them, to think I could go out on my own. And one thing that I will tell you is that when I first started out, the first website that I did, I got paid $250 for, and that came out to approximately $1.75 an hour. Um, it was great practice. It was my first client. He was a real nice guy. There was no organization in the project whatsoever. I didn't really know what I was doing, and it's okay to take those projects as long as you understand that you're not working for the money, you're working for the experience. Because if you're trying to do work for the money when you're first starting out, you're only going to let yourself down and let down the client, and you're going to get frustrated and give up. It's not about the money off the bat, because you can't make the money. You have to have the experience somewhere. Yes, you might have. I'm speaking a lot about web development because that's what I do, but it holds true for photography, for writing, for for well, for any industry. I forget the what I was going for there. Yeah, consulting. Um, you're not going to know exactly what you're doing right out of the bat. You're Even if you've been trained in it for months or years or centuries, it's a lot different than when you're actually applying that. Granted, a good education is highly recommended in any field. But until you actually get out there and you get the practice and you're able to problem solve and meet these challenges head on, you're really not going to be prepared. So you just kind of have to close your eyes and dive in, and take some crappy jobs for a little while until you'll gradually evolve over time. But yeah, the first thing you want to do is you do want to pick what you want to do. For me, it was definitely web development. From the time I was 15 years old and building MySpace layouts, to now 10 years later, it's always been web development. I love graphic design as well. But after that, then you want to assess your skill level. How good are you? Is really the basis of it. I mean, chances are, if you're good, then you don't need this video. If you are just starting out, you're probably not good enough to be a heavy player, so to speak. It's just a matter of getting that experience under your belt. You will know when you've gotten to a point where you can charge more, when you can take on bigger projects and evolve your business, your freelancing business, beyond just you sitting at a computer. Next step, step three, tools check. Do you have the technology and the tools to complete the job? Again, photography, you're probably not going to go out there with a disposable Kodak to take pictures. It's not going to work out well. You're probably not going to get away with using your cell phone unless you have one of those cell phones that are meant for photography. But even then, I myself, I'm not a photographer. I own a Nikon 5200. Not the best camera, but I'm able to sell photography services from time to time and go out there with the confidence that I have the equipment necessary to do the job, and it works out. Same with web development. Obviously, you need a computer. I have built websites using computers that have 2 gigabytes of RAM, really crappy processor, really crappy graphics card, because honestly, with websites, they don't require a lot of CPU. You're looking at something like Notepad or Notepad++, or go a little heavier, Sublime, and a browser. You know, that's pretty standard. Graphic design, obviously. Oh, and that's one thing with web development. When somebody hands you a design, you're probably going to need Photoshop. Graphic design, obviously, Photoshop, Illustrator. InDesign, depends on what your niche is specifically, but if you want to be a graphic designer, chances are you have some sort of program that allows you to do that. But you also have to think about deliverables. Could you use GIMP or Inkscape to create a graphic design project? Yes. Can you deliver a file type that the client can use, can pass on to other people without issues, without them having to have that specific program? Maybe. But professionals use professional grade programs, and so you kind of want to invest in a membership to Creative Cloud or something like that. Again, web development on that side, there's really not a whole lot to it. You could build websites with Notepad and a browser. So, granted, the highlighting tools and all of that, the syntax tools, those are all really useful and helpful. The autocomplete, things like that. Okay, so you've decided what you want to do. You've got the tools, and you've assessed your skill level, so you know what you can take on and what you can't take on. So now we need to talk about what your role is. So when you're freelancing, it is a business. At the end of the day, what you're doing, whether you work a full-time job and do this 2 hours a night or on the weekend, it's a business. You're providing a service that brings in money. So you have to think about it like a business. You need to be professional, and you need to operate under normal business practices. Not normal business hours, but business practices, meaning invoicing, bookkeeping, taxes, things like that. Those are very important. Yes, you can operate under the table. You can do all this stuff, and I'll talk about that later. But you do want to be professional. If you're a college student that's doing it out of their dorm room, you don't want to attempt to look like a multi-million-dollar studio, but you still want to operate with the most professional practices that you have at your disposal. In fact, I'll talk about this a little later too, but you don't want to represent yourself to be bigger or badder than you really are. You want to be honest about who you are, what you can do, and deliver in an honest fashion. But again, we'll touch on that a little later. So, anyways, as a business, there's a couple of things that you need to be. Yes, you can partner up with other people, but as a freelancer, typically you work by yourself. You might get paired with another freelancer. You might meet other freelancers and take on projects together. But for the most part, your business is your business. Their business is their business, and they can succeed and you can fail, and it doesn't affect them or you. You know, you're completely solo. So a couple of the hats that you're going to have to wear are going to be sales, um, business management, and doing the work. When it comes to sales, agencies pay huge salaries to the guys that bring in the clients, that bring in the accounts, and there's a reason for that. They typically don't know much about what the technicalities of the job, but they have good personalities. They are likable, friendly, and they know how to get a point across. And sales tactics, and it's really helpful in bringing in clients because you can't just, I want to be a freelancer, and then boom, you have all this work. You have to figure out where to find it, how to get it. You have to fight for it. Chances are there's other people they're looking at if it's a job that's been posted somewhere, or how to convince somebody that they need it. And that's not to say that you're going around selling stuff that people don't need. There might be a business down the street that the guy's running it by himself, and he's never even thought to have a website at all. But a website might be exactly what he needs, and you just need to go in there and you need to show him, hey, this is what a website can do for you. This is how it can make it easier. You're tired of answering the phone and stuff like that. Well, let's put all your information on your website, and you basically you just kind of put it out there in a friendly manner and make sure they trust you. Don't be sleazy. Don't be sneaky. You're not trying to pull one over on somebody. It's a very tricky thing, but honesty is key. Honesty and sincerity will do more for you in life in general than anything else. Anything else. Money comes and goes, people stay, and nobody likes someone who's trying to pull the wool over their eyes. So be honest and sincere in your sales, and then just hit it. I mean, hit it hard. Go through the phone books, call companies. One thing I found is that it's actually easier to work for other agencies, work for agencies that bring on website clients on a regular basis. Reason being is if you get in good with an agency, they're bringing you work. Every time they have a website or every time they need you with overflow, you're actually, it's not a steady source of income, but it's an easier source of income. Plus, you build rapport with them, and eventually they might even hire you if that's something you're looking for. I know in some places it's hard to find a web development job, in particular, or a photography job. That's why especially there's a lot of self-employed photographers that run around. So sometimes if you want to do what you want to do, sometimes you do have to go out on your own. There's a lot of different reasons to freelance. But if that's one thing, definitely talking to agencies. And you might have to annoy them. I mean, send your resume through fax at once every hour, every day. I mean, just to make sure that they know that you are willing to work, that you want the work. And you don't have to do it locally either. Yeah, local is great. I love face to face. But I've worked with people in the UK, in Russia, and Australia, and I'm in the U.S. and they're in the northern parts of the U.S. like New York, and then in California, and places like that. And I'm down here in Texas. I've had very few local clients. The jobs that I've had have been local. Their clients are usually local within at least a 200-mile radius. Me personally, I've gotten a lot of work out of the state and out of the country. So it doesn't have to be local. You just have to know where to look. We'll talk about that. The work itself. When you have a job, your job is to do work. When you run a company, your job is to do the work, but then to do everything else. Even at small scale, you're still handling sales, which is a pain in the butt when you don't have any business. But you're also having to manage your business and you're going to do the work. So you want to make sure you have a good workflow, you're very organized, and you devote a certain amount of time a day specifically to getting the jobs done, because you do not want to blow deadlines, and you do not want to mess up relationships. So you want to make sure the work gets done first and foremost. And then after that, it's business management. You have to be accountable for your business. Money comes in, money goes out. If you end up hiring people, there's a lot of people who start web development companies that have never built a website, never will. What they do is they find clients, they take on the project, they hire outsourced developers and designers, and it's not my deal, but they're good at it, and so more power to them. But you still have to be accountable for what comes in, what goes out, and realize that this isn't a sustainable source of income unless you make it so. So you can't just live off what comes in. You might make $10,000 one month. You might make zero for the next 5 months. So if you get $10,000 and you go party with that, blow it on whatever, that next 5 months, you're scraping and you're pleading for a job that might not come for another 7 months. You don't know, but you should have saved that $10,000 and wrote off of it. And that's really the idea. I mean, you want to pay yourself a salary, regardless of what comes in. I make this much. My business has this much. You know, Also just being organized with your clients, business management. I mean, when I talk about business management, you're managing every aspect of your business, and then marketing, which actually falls under sales, but your website and your social media, all that. Um, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later as well. I have a different outlook on a lot of people on how to represent yourself. So let's talk about finding clients. Like I said, you don't have to go local. You don't have to go to business owners. You can get paired with an agency, multiple agencies. I have At one point in time, I was doing jobs for I think 7 different agencies, and honestly, it was the easiest time of my life. Now, granted, I'm one of the people that will tell you hourly work is not that big of a deal when you're working with an agency. A credible agency is going to pay their freelancers. Um, the mom and pop down the street is probably not going to give you an hourly bill, but the agencies, they're used to working with freelancers. They know that if they pay their freelancers and their freelancers are good, they'll come back, and that allows them to make more money and take on more work. So that's why I love agencies. Not to mention, when you have agencies, when they get new projects, they come back to you. Even if it's just overflow work, you might get one project one month, and 3 months down the road, they get overloaded again because they have developers on staff. I work with agencies that don't have any developers on staff. There's probably 3 of me that they work with, you know, and I try my best to outshine anybody, even though I don't know who they are. I try my best to outshine them, just with honesty, sincerity, and getting the job done right. And it works out. Agencies are great. You can do local businesses, small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses. Couple of things, yeah, yellow pages, go for it. I mean, if especially if you don't have a job and you really want to do this, why not go from A to Z through the phone book and just call everybody? Do you have a website? How's your internet marketing? Do you need photography? You know, you are only going to get out of it what you put into it, regardless of what it is. So yeah, go for it. Go through the phone book. Another option is, and this works for agencies too, online job markets. People per hour, Upwork, Guru.com, Fiverr. Excuse me. Those are great ways. I've gotten so much work off there. It's ridiculous. Granted, I'm in a specialized field. I don't just do web development. I do a specific type of web development, which if you watch my tutorials, you'll understand what that's about. I work with a specific CMS. It's a very open niche for me. But yes, you can get a lot of work. A couple of things you need to worry about: pricing. You will, if you're especially if you're using Upwork or some kind of online job platform, you will get outbidded by somebody willing to do the job that you're trying to do for $25 an hour for $5 an hour. That's just the way it is. Some people want to pay less regardless of what is delivered. And if you know anything about the exchange rates of currency, um, you know, $5 in India is about $25 here. No, that's not right. $5 of our money in India is about $25 equivalent here. So technically, they're working for the same price you are, but it's cheaper for the client. And I'm not knocking Indians. I've worked with some of the most amazing developers I know are from India, and I've worked with them. I've hired them. They're really good. It does make it a lot harder for us, but there are clients that just prefer to keep it in the country, keep it English. I can imagine if I were to try to hire Indian clients, it would take me a while to learn their language. Sorry, I don't really know what it is. It would take me a while to learn it though. So it's really impressive that so many Indians do speak English. But it would also there would still be a communication barrier, and that's exactly what you experience with a good portion of the freelancers that come from other countries. Is yes, they speak English, but they speak it with heavy accents, or they get their words jumbled, and it is hard to communicate that way. And so a lot of clients prefer to keep it in the country for that reason, to keep it with a native English speakers. So that is a plus on your side. Um, so yeah, definitely online venues, as well as local, as just getting in there and just tearing it up locally, asking around will definitely. I mean, that first client is going to be the hardest client you've ever had to work for, especially if you don't have a work portfolio. If you don't have the confidence that says, I've done this 1,000 times before and I'm going to do it for you now at an expert quality, you'll get that eventually. But that first client is going to be so scary. If you know any business owners in your family or something, you might just want to ask them for to do it very cheap, because you need that. You need that first one, and it's going to be hard to get. The second one's going to be a little easier. Eventually, you know, if it works out for you down the line, people will be calling you weekly, and you just, here's my prices, and this is what I can do. If you don't like it, okay. And that honestly, that works out great. You would be surprised. One thing that I will warn you about clients: never take on a difficult client. There are people out there who you tell them you'll do it for 25, they want you to do it for 20. If you tell them you'll do it for 5, they want you to do it for 3. They're never going to be satisfied with the work. They're never going to want to pay you what you think you're worth, and they'll always talk you down. And these are the same people who will demand it to be done this week, today, tomorrow. But whenever it comes time for them to give you feedback or to give you material, they'll take a week, a year, and then they'll come back and they'll give you what you want, and then they'll be like, I want it now. Where is it? Where is it? Well, you told me to be done a year ago. You know, avoid them like the plague. It's not worth it. It might be $200 in your pocket, $1,000 in your pocket, but it's going to come at such a steep price, and it's going to drive you crazy, especially starting out when you don't have the fortitude to deal with that. Just avoid them. What you want are people who know what they want, they respect what you do, and are willing to pay you at the end of it and to work with you to get it done. Because any project, especially a website, it's a collaboration between you and the client. You're not just doing it. They have to give their input. They have to ahead of time, and you have to go through the steps. I have a process which I'll talk about in another video, and it requires their feedback at every step of the process. That way, at the end, there are no complaints and there are no issues. You get a client who's just like, "Oh, do it, just get it done," and then you build it and you put it up, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, this isn't what I wanted at all." And you're like, "Well, but in their mind, they still paid you. You still have to deliver." Um, and yeah, it gets into legal stuff. I mean, it depends. You could just give them a refund and walk away. You could just ignore their phone calls. I mean, there's all kinds of things, but there are repercussions. Not to mention, they will walk around and, don't hire that guy. He didn't do what I wanted and all that stuff. So just avoid them. I mean, don't even put yourself in a position where you have to deal with that. If they're acting funny, if they are being difficult, throw your hands up. I will take on a difficult client from time to time, and it is a wrestling match every day, every day. And sometimes I enjoy it. It is a good skill to learn how to deal with difficult people, but don't do it starting out. Don't do it starting out. Avoid it. Okay, so self-presentation. This goes with finding clients. This is what I was going to talk about: website and social media and stuff. There are so many opinions on how to present yourself online. Let me tell you, I have been doing this for a long time. I've had really, really good months. I've had some not so good months. I don't have a website. I don't have social media. I have a cell phone and some freelancer profiles on, some various sites. I have some good connections that I've gotten over the years that really help out, but and a lot of them are agencies. But I don't have any of that stuff. You go ask somebody else, they're going to tell you, oh, you need a website and social media and you need to brand yourself. You go ask another person, they're going to be like, oh, you need a work portfolio. You go ask another person, oh, you just need confidence. And honestly, I think that's what I run off of is just confidence. I can get the job done. I'm not BSing. I can get the job done. So when I talk to somebody on the phone or, face to face, they know I can get the job done because I don't act like I can't because I know I can. And maybe that's all I need. Maybe you do need personal branding. Put up a website. I'm not saying don't, but if you're struggling for whatever reason, maybe you lost your job, maybe you got laid off, maybe you did something crazy like I did, and you just walked out and said, "I'm going to be a web developer now." You don't have the luxury of spending 3 weeks building your website and getting all your social media stuff together. You need money now. So if you follow those other people and they tell you, oh, you need all this stuff, then all you're doing is you're basically your own client for the first 6 months of your freelancing career, and it's only going to discourage you when the bills are piling up and etc. If you've got the time, go for it. I mean, absolutely go for it. If you've got a full-time job, you want to do this just for fun or for money, get a website together, make it look awesome, get social media. I mean, that's great. But I'll tell you, a lot of clients, they don't they don't know how to build a website. They don't really know what websites are. They know their business needs one, and they know why. Usually, sometimes they just think that it's just yeah. Some people are ridiculous, but so they could look at any website and go like, oh, I like that. I like that. And I've had people who sent me crap websites and say, I want it to look just like that. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You want it to look like this. And they're like, oh, wow. I never would have thought of that. So you don't need to go through the moon. Just animations here and all of this stuff. Just put something simple up and build on it as you go. Same with social media. Do you need to post to social media every day? No, you don't, because especially if you're targeting agencies, and agencies follow other agencies. Agencies follow industry leaders and thought leaders. Industries don't follow freelancers on social media on Facebook. You know, if they do, it's kind of like a pity click. You're not making an impact there. If you want to do something community wise and you want to make yourself a thought leader in your industry, that's great, because I'm sure that if you know what you're talking about, that there's a lot of people, or even if you're taking a journey to learn how to know what you're talking about, there's a lot of people who'd love to follow you, and you can go that way, and it does look good for you. Again, I'm not that type of person. This is my first YouTube video in years, and I probably would never show this to a client. So it's really up to you. There's no strict standard. Just if you're going to do the freelancing online sites, your profile, make it professional. Try to come up with some sort of work that you've done, whether it be a fake website or whatever, to show people. Photography, again, I focus on websites, but this could apply to anything. There's blog writers, something I could never do, but there's people who love to write. Yeah, and then always be learning, always be willing to reach out to other people and to learn from other people. There's lots of people who are much better than me, much better than you, that you can learn from, that have been there and done that. And then there's lots of people who you could help with your experience, and maybe one day they'll pay it forward to somebody else. So community's great, but don't do your personal branding specifically because you think someone's going to be looking at your website and that's going to be the sole reason they hire you. Truth be told, that initial conversation you have with your client is what's going to sell it. Yeah, it's not about how pretty your website is. It's about, can you do the job, and you'll sell that through your voice. Okay, so financials, getting paid. Oh man, getting paid. Um, I can't tell you how many times I've done a job for free, or within an approximation of free, was starting out. Like I said, at one point I was building websites for $1.75 an hour. Nowadays I do about $50 an hour. Then there are times where someone is like, "Oh well, you do my website, and I'll bring you more." I've got a lot of friends that own businesses, and I'll bring you more business. It never happens. So again, $1.75 an hour for a false promise. People will play that card, and you'll fall for it until you don't. And I'm at a point now where somebody comes to me and they want a website for less than $1,500. I tell them, sorry about your luck. You're gonna have to find someone else because it's just not worth it for me anymore. Again, if you want the experience, go for it, but don't go for it assuming that, oh, I'll do this website for 250 and I'll do all of his friends' websites for 1,000 a piece and I'll, make bank, and it's not going to happen. You'll never hear from them again after you hand over the website, and if you do, he'll they'll jump over any mention of that agreement. Because for one, they can't promise that somebody else is going to bring you their business. It'd be like if I was like, McDonald's is going to hire you if you give me, a free website. It's not going to work. They don't have any control over that business. Also, they they don't they want a good deal. This falls under the same category as those clients I was talking about that are just they're trouble. They don't respect the industry. They're just looking to make a quick buck, and guarantee they're going to brag about it. Yeah, I only paid 250 for that website. And it's messed up. Just don't fall for it. Just say no. No, like if no, don't. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Another thing is getting paid. Here's the thing about the added value that comes with a website. It's a value added asset to a company. It becomes part of the company, no different than a storefront, no different than if those cars that companies wrap in their logo. It's a piece of the company. You are building them a piece of their company. It is a value added asset. If they go to sell that company or get that company evaluated to go public, or whatever the case may be, that website adds, even if it's a minuscule amount, it adds value to the company. You're making their business better, hopefully, if you're doing a good job. So why would you give it away for free? Businesses pay $100 or $1,000 to $10,000 a month for billboards. They pay between $1,000 and $20,000 a month for commercials, depending on what channels they and what times of day and how many times they ran. They pay $5,000 for signs outside of their buildings. I should say between 5 and 20,000 again. So, are you uncomfortable charging $1,000 for a 10-page website for a company? That's a question you'd ask yourself. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be uncomfortable charging $3,000 for a website, because take the hourly work out of it. At the end of the day, you're selling a product. That product is the website. That website is a value added asset to the company, no different than any other things I mentioned. So you should be able to confidently say, I want 1,500, I want $3,000 for this job. Not, don't be cocky. Be confident. This is what I'm willing to charge you. There's there's just really, just look it up. Look at all the things that businesses have, car wraps and stuff like that, and just price check them. And I'm telling you, it's to some companies. There was a company at an agency I worked for in house as the lead developer, senior lead developer. They were paying us $50,000 a month for marketing. We didn't do anything. Not my fault, but we did very little. But it was such a small drop in the bucket for them that they didn't realize it. Not saying go rip off companies by any means. You're technically starting a company. They are a company. You want to keep your business relationships healthy, but you don't want to get ripped off. And I'll tell you something else too. What you charge determines the respect that you're given. People know, even if people don't know how to build a website or don't even use the internet very often, they're business people. They've heard of websites. Their friends, their business friends have gotten websites. They know what people pay for them. So you go to a company and say, I'll build your website for $250. You are basically opening up the door for them to take full advantage of you. And not everybody will. Some people will just say no because they know based on that price that you're not about your business. Other people will say yes, and then they will milk you for every last drop. And then whenever they're done, I mean, I've seen people get sued at the end of it. You just couldn't finish the project. You didn't charge enough. They wouldn't pay you anymore, and they just kept changing it, changing it, changing it, changing it. And then whenever you're like, I just can't do it, then next thing you know, legal stuff happens, and it's just a mess. So charge what you're worth, what the project is worth, like a professional, like a business person, and you you'll you will succeed by doing that. Another thing is when you do get paid, never, ever, 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 ever agree to take the payment after the job is done. Never. Why would a company put paying you as their top priority when you've already finished the job? It's done, it's up, it's working for them. Their website is doing the job that it's supposed to do. You just dropped out of their priority list completely. If they do pay you, then it could be a year later, if you just constantly just frustrated, calling, yelling, screaming. I mean, it's just not worth it. Never agree to take the if as soon as they say we'll pay you when it's finished, you hang up the phone. You tell them hell no, you pay me. What I do is I take half down. I take half a finish. There's a lot of people who will tell you take half down, take a quarter in the middle, take a corner before launch. A quarter, not a corner. That's the full amount, but that gives you some startup flow. I'm a little different. I just have a more aggressive business style, and I don't worry as much about the stuff. But definitely starting out, protect your ass. Don't stick it out there to get chopped off. I mean, don't charge too little, and make sure that they pay you. If they want to pay you the full thing up front, that's fine. But on that note, do the job. Don't get paid and then okay, I got the money now. That 3 week deadline turned into 6 months, or you get another project. Just finish the job. Like, don't be that guy. They especially when they pay you up front. Just don't be that guy. Do the job you're paid to do. That's why the split up payments work best for both parties. You're guaranteed to get paid, but you don't get paid so much that you're able to put this project off because you need that next amount. So you do the job up to that point, get paid again, do the job up to finish, get paid again, and then you launch. And on the other side of that, that's what they like. And on your side, you're guaranteed to get paid. So no matter how you get paid, do the job, but don't do the job until you've gotten something. It's just opening up the door to get ripped off. Bookkeeping. Look, there are so many free apps that allow you to track your expenses and your income and all this stuff. And like I was talking about before, you do not want to be in a position where you're hoping you make that $500 or close that account next week because you have a car payment. Don't get a lump of money and then, oh, now I'm rich this month and next month you're broke. Run it like a business. How much do you need to live off of comfortably? Maybe not comfortably at first, but eventually comfortably. I think when I first decided to do that, I think I added up between me and my fiance, we needed $2,100 to pay all of our bills and groceries and gas and etc. So I knew I needed that much money, minus her amount of income was what I had to pay myself. So everything beyond that went put back in the bank for a rainy day, and then I would pay myself. And it is worth noting, I don't know how you want to run your business, but it is important that eventually you get on top of your taxes. You have to pay a certain amount. I put like 30% back per payment for my quarterly payments. You do have to pay. So if you're making $50 an hour, you're actually making I don't know, like $30 an hour, because a lot of that's going to go towards taxes and etc. So just be aware of that. Bookkeeping is important. Not to mention, let's say you're like, oh, screw taxes. I'm gonna. Okay, well, let's say you've just gotten slammed with clients. I mean, it's going so good for you. But you didn't listen to me, and you never kept money in the bank, and you just spent everything you got, and you've got a new Ferrari outside and a pool, and you're living in a 5 bedroom house on Lakeside Avenue or somewhere. So your cash flow is a little scary, but you realize that you can either turn down work, or you can hire another developer, or you start a full-fledged. Let's just say you decide to flip the switch and just crank it up to 11 and get an office and 12 people working for you right away, which don't do. This is an exaggeration. Well, where are you going to get the money? It doesn't fall out of the sky. You either have to save it up, borrow it, something. Unless you have rich relatives, your borrowing options are going to be loans, a bank. What do you need to get a loan from a bank? Proof of income. Uh, Proof of income for you, but as a business, it's proof of income for your business. If you're not paying business taxes, if you're not paying taxes on your income, then you have no proof. You need tax returns. You need stuff like that for the U.S. I don't know how this works outside of the U.S., but you need stuff like that to be able to take to the bank and go, here, this is what I made. This is why I'm able to pay back this line of credit. This is why I'm able to pay back this big ass loan. If you don't have that at your disposal, then they're going to be like, according to the government, you're unemployed and you don't make any money. And then, like, it could get even messier. Like, you go, no, it's a lie. I just don't pay taxes. And the next thing you know, you have the IRS knocking on your door. I mean, it's a big mess. So you're limiting your ability to grow if you don't handle things professionally and do your business well. Bookkeeping is very, very important. So just get a free software, get a paid software. There's QuickBooks, FreshBooks, there's Wave app. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of programs that you can use. So yeah, I mean, that's really it. I don't know. This was my first video. I think I'm gonna make a few more. Uh, Definitely, I'm gonna get back into doing tutorials for HubSpot and things like that. So I hope you guys liked it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or insults. I really don't care. I look forward to seeing y'all again. Bye.